Hello, everyone. Take two. Carla and I, we were talking and thinking the live was happening, and then I realized 15 minutes in that I forgot to push the button. So here we are again. Thank you, Carla, for your patience with me.
No
I,
problem.
I am so listen. I am so excited for people to hear your story and what you've discovered through your own journey working with the biofield. You're a biofield practitioner. You've been on a healing journey yourself, and you have discovered the impact or the connection that our ancestors have on us in our life. So um you were I'm just going to make a brief synopsis of what you shared with me, so you don't have to say it over again, then we can get to the meat of it. But yeah, that you had kind of discovered, well, that in your life in general, you always kind of had this sadness, which I can totally relate to. I had the same thing. Even though I was very talented, I had friends, but there was always this melancholy that would just follow me wherever I went. Um, and you had kind of a very difficult time. You and your husband tried to homestead, and that turned out to be overwhelming and difficult. And you were miserable, and now here you are, and you decided to put yourself first and go on this healing journey. So yeah, go ahead and share with us, how did you first of all, I'm really curious, how did you even hear about biofield tuning, and why were you drawn to it?
Well, I was searching the internet after we had left our homestead and we were living temporarily with my in-laws, and until we could move to the house we're here now. And I was using my spare time to search the internet to rely on spirit, on God, or to show me what I needed to have, because I knew I needed to heal myself and I wanted a career that I could help others with too. And so I was just looking, and really I don't know how I came across it. I don't um it was just suddenly this one thing had come up, that it was like a, a webinar, a series of interviews with various people on energy. And I didn't know anything about energy except for, utilities. And my career in the past I had been in a lot in horticulture. My college degree was in horticulture, and I
Mhm.
had done real estate and insurance for many years, and then was a nursing home administrator. And then I did cleaning and gardening for people after I needed a break from a stressful job. And so I don't know. I just clicked on it because I was open to everything, because I hurt so bad I had to change, right? So
Yeah.
had just been open, and somehow that popped up in my email. So I clicked on it and looked through who they were doing. And one day I was listening to it, and Eileen Day McCusick was being interviewed about her company, which was biofield tuning. And so that was the first thing I ever knew about a biofield. Of course, I'd heard about an aura, but I pictured that as somewhat different. And so I didn't know anything else about a biofield or working in energy or anything. But as soon as I heard it, I just knew. That happens to me.
Mhm.
When it's something that spirit is guiding me to, it's like I can't not do it.
Right.
It's just so urgent feeling inside. I have to do it. I have to do
Yeah.
it. And so that was that feeling as soon as I heard biofield tuning. And so I had taken the class, and just a few days after the class, I had got I was telling you about earlier about the mind. I was studying how the mind worked because when I was a nursing home administrator, my dad had died and the job had been so incredibly stressful that my mind started not working right. There was problems, relationship difficulties in my family because of my dad dying, and then the stress of the job, and my mind quit working. It was like I could see myself making decisions that weren't right, but I couldn't do anything to stop me. And it wasn't, you know, um, it's not like I killed someone or anything, but
Right.
very poor business decisions.
Gotcha.
And so I wanted to learn what happened to my mind and things. And so I was just learning how when we're children, our mind functions differently than when we're adults, and how we receive everything as truth, and we count our parents as being almost God because they protect us and give birth to us, and we just trust them implicitly.
Yeah.
And I had been raised up until about 5 years earlier than that day, in the Christian churches. And so my thought went to, I had come out of the churches. I was no longer part of organized religion, but it dawned on me, oh, that's like Eve in the Bible, because I'd always thought she was, I'd always thought she had a
Um,
bad rap, and I had given her a bad rap because, why was she so weak, or why did she believe those lies, or, or
mm,
whatever. Um, and I didn't know if it was just an analogy, or if she represented a single person, or if she represented more than that. Right. And so
mm,
I just said, God, if she still exists somewhere, I want her to know that I understand it wasn't her fault. That she had, supposedly they were new in the Garden of Eden. That to me represented the new mindset, the coming in with the mindset of a child, right?
mm,
And receiving all they heard as truth. And so to me, that's what had happened to her. And I said, I want her to know I get it, and that I'm sorry I blamed her before, that that those actions that she took were no different than my old stories were my fault, right?
mhm.
And so then I thought that an angel right away was beside me, and he was really tall. I didn't see him with my eyes, but my eyes could track his energy. I knew how tall he was, how big he was, and where he was. And the answer right away I heard inside me, and it was, they know. So it wasn't just Eve, it was all those in the oneness, the
Yeah.
ancestors who had gone there, and angels there too. They knew that I knew, and were acknowledging my thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought, wow, they do exist, because I thought maybe when we die, right? And that's it.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
until maybe at some point, the second coming, or restored earth or something, maybe then we would live again. But
Mm,
so I thought, well, I was really concerned with how EMFs were damaging my biofield, or our bodies. And so I thought, wow, they're probably damaged too. They're in it a lot longer than I have been, right? And so
mm,
I asked if I could tune them, but I wanted their permission. And I was surrounded by a big circle of orbs of light, and this I could see it out of the corners of my eye all around. I was outside in my garden, and this big yes resounded
mm.
through me. Um, and so I started tuning them as one, all their biofields as one, that it would apply to each of them. And I did find damage in the biofields, especially around the outer edge. Our biofields extend about 5 to 6 feet away from our bodies, and 2 to 3 feet above our head and below our feet. And it's kind of in a toroid shape, like a donut or an apple. And the energy flows in and out from the universe and around, all any way you can imagine. It's flowing bidirectionally in spirals. And so that's what I was tuning. I was tuning the ancestors, and I had tuned them for about 6 weeks, maybe once a week for 6 weeks. And then all of a sudden one day, I was sitting at my kitchen table, and my grandfather appeared. He was standing next to me, and he had been dead for 25 years. And it was like I was scared, but it was Grandpa. And he says, I want to go to the oneness. I need your help. And I didn't even speak out loud. It was like well, how can I help? Right. And he
Yeah.
said, use your tuning forks. And so it's like I say, okay, God, okay, universe, show me what to do. And so I was shown to work in my biofield and clear his energy within me. And so I did. And it was such huge amounts of grief and sadness because his oldest son had been killed in a car accident before I was born. And this all released, and I realized then all this sadness and fear and unworthiness and not enoughness that I'd carried all my life,
Yeah.
was from probably from my ancestors, and that in order to heal me, I had to heal them. So I started systematically going from I started with my parents. My dad had died, my mom was still alive, and I cleared their energy in me one at a time, and then each grandparent on both sides back to 5 generations because I knew their names. I had had both sides
Wow.
of the family had,
You
what do you call that,
you have
genealogy work done,
right.
or at least knew his history about him, right? And so I knew not only their names, but quite a bit about their social standing, their religious standing, what they did for a living, and how many kids they had, and stuff like that in general. And so I cleared them, and I found it was my grandmother's, beside my grandfather, it was both my grandmothers had great, great, great sadness. And it took a number of tunings, especially of my maternal grandmother, because I was very close to her,
Yeah.
and um, to clear the sadness before the sadness started lifting in me. And so I went through it, and I found out, well, I can, they go, when I got done tuning them, they were here. It was like my grandfather. I couldn't see them with my eyes, but I could track their energy. I knew exactly where they were. Um, and and then I realized, through a number of events, happenings in meditation and
Mhm.
things, that I could help other family members that didn't have children of their own, um, transition to the oneness also. And but they would leave. All my ancestors would leave my home, and I didn't know where they went to go to the oneness, but they would leave. Sometimes they would look at me and say, and it was as if, well, why are you making us leave? But it was like, well, what else do you do? I don't need ancestors around here all day. And so then I found out through another series of events, it was the summer solstice. And I had thought, well, I knew other biofield practitioners often tuned ley lines. And so I thought, I'll just do that, for the solstice. And I thought, well, we live in kind of an old river valley. There's probably a ley line in a bunch of trees somewhere around, right?
Mhm.
Within 20 miles or something. And so I just held that intention of tuning the nearest ley line, and right in front of me, whoosh, it was if I would have, if I was a step closer, it felt as if I could have been whooshed off my feet. I don't know if I would have been, but it was. And so I was taken aback. And so then a few weeks later, I had was listening to, um, a Marie Diamond class on dowsing and trying to learn that. And um, I realized she had said something that, um, 90-degree vortexes is a positive vortex for ley lines. When two cross at a 90-degree angle, that's where ancestors transition from. And so I thought, oh, that's what's happening. The ancestors are coming to me because I have a ley line here in the garden, right? And so I walked around the house trying to find the ley line. So I found the first one, which I knew was where they had gone whooshing by me. And it was about 5 feet wide. And I walked on around the house, and on another side of the house, I'd almost forgotten what I was doing. I was just walking and looking at the yard, and all of a sudden the pendulum started swinging, and there was the second ley line, and it's only 18 inches wide or 20 inches wide. And so I ran inside the house, and I marked out each of them with tape where they flowed through the house. I was using my dowsing pendulum to see where it would go, and they intersect in a 90-degree angle in this room where I work.
Huh.
And so that's why I had been having, as soon as we had moved, I had always done some meditation, or at least Bible reading and prayer. And it
Yeah.
was like all of a sudden I started doing astral travel, and big visions and people visiting me from the future, and all sorts of stuff that had never happened before. And I realized that's probably why, because I would, when we moved to this house, I had gotten rid, when we lived on the homestead, I'd gotten rid of all my antique furniture from my ancestors. And when we moved to this, it's an old house. And so I'd had my furniture in storage. And so I would got it back. And I always, every morning, sat in my grandma's antique rocker in the vortex without knowing it was there. And that's how my journey started with tuning forks, and everything just found me. And
Yeah.
so I started tuning all the ancestors and working, and then helping clients with their ancestors too. And I got better and better. I used other things too. Like I like hypnosis. So you clear out the biofield of the negative and pump in good positive stuff, right?
Right.
To create good patterns.
Yeah.
And there's a number of things I used as help, that helped me along my journey to clear energy in different ways,
Mhm.
and stuff. So that's, yeah, that's my journey, and it
Well, you're
continued,
blowing me
right?
away. I mean, so this biofield stuff and working with the ancestors, was that from what I'm hearing is you kind of discovered that on your own, yes? Or was that something that they taught in the class?
Well, some practitioners who had done it for a while knew about the ancestral field. I had contacted some of them, and one person told me about him. No one else mentioned it, but one person told me about him. I don't even remember who it was. And but most practitioners didn't know anything about it at that time. I don't know whether they do now or not. And because that's 5 years ago. And
Mhm.
so anyway, one person knew kind of like how big it was, how big it had been found. And so the ancestral field starts from where our own individual field leaves off, and it goes out to 30 to 35 feet from our bodies, and it's a toroid shape too.
Yeah.
And what I had found is that I often come across what I call death energy in the ancestral field. So which is the energy that was stuck, the resistance that was created in the electric flow of our bodies, because our biofields are all the light particles and the space between those particles that flow in light waves throughout the universe.
Yes.
And so what happens is when we have resistance to emotions, either these thought patterns and emotions, it can be happy patterns too, but most often we find it from, anger, or um, unmet needs, or powerlessness, or guilt and shame, right? All sorts of things, not speaking your truth. And all those things have been mapped out by Eileen Day McCusick. She had experienced those in the many years that she worked in biofields, before she started teaching it. And so she had mapped out where those things are found in the biofield, which chakra, outside of which chakra contained it, right? And so anyway, but when we hold those resistances to things that happen in our lives, and we have those deep feelings that we just hold on to because they hurt, right? They're painful,
Yeah.
and we have trouble adapting to the situations that have occurred, if someone dies, or anything that evokes great emotion,
Mhm.
and that makes the light particles freeze, and so they no longer flow within the flow. They're there, and they
Yeah.
flow around them because it's a block in the flow at that age where it was formed, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like rings on a tree. As you get older, no, I should say, when you're a baby, it would say a lot of people would have it just at birth, right? Because birth is a traumatic event itself, or for sure your first needs that are not met on your timely scale as soon as you're a baby, right? And so
Mhm.
those would form right next to your body, but each year they get moved out further and further, like rings on a tree. And so conception, gestation, and birth is at the outer edge of your biofield. Current day is right next to you. So if you're age 60, halfway from your body to the outer edge would be about age 30.
Yeah.
So And so you can kind of find, as you're working with clients, from where you are in the biofield, you can kind of know what age they were, and in at the chakra or place you're standing in the body, at by the body, you can say, okay, well, you're about the age of 30, and I'm working in powerlessness, which would be around the left hip area, the left solar plexus area. And so, and that can bring memories to their mind, that they could speak to, or at least think of, to acknowledge that pain, and it helps clear the energy. That helps the tuning forks, I should say. The sound is sound therapy, and so the sound waves are on the spectrum of light waves, and it causes biofeedback to the body. It's like the sound waves, when they intersect a pocket of the stuck energy in the light waves, it makes a different sound or a different vibration. And so the mind hears the different vibration or sound and realizes, hey, something's not flowing the way it's supposed to, and releases those. And then
Interesting. Yeah.
the tuning forks also have magnetism, or I should say, it's the sound waves that have the magnetism. And so we pull those fragments with those released particles with, and pour them into your central channel, because those were your energy that was stuck, say, when you were 3 or when you were 30.
Mhm.
And you pour them back into your energy channel where you can use them again.
Yeah.
And
Wow. Yeah. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
so I was in the ancestral field, and so I find this death energy, which,
Sorry, that's my ding.
okay,
No,
and
you're fine.
so the death energy, I find, is about 2 foot away from the edge of your biofield. So your body, say your body's here, the edge of your biofield is 5 to 6 feet away. And by the way, that's probably, I'm guessing, why in COVID we were supposed to stay 5 or 6 feet away from each other, so that we wouldn't be um, feeling better, feeling each other's vibes. Instead, we were supposed to feel real lonely and separate,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And so, anyway, so we have this your edge of the biofield, and then about 2 foot. It kind of varies per person and per their energy voltage, and that's where I find the death energy. And then you go out another 25 feet, and that's the outer edge of the ancestral biofield.
Interesting. And
So I work in the ancestral field, and then I work on through to through the individual field into the, and put all the released energy back into the body. And as these blocks are released, the particles of light are released by the sound waves or the biofeedback from the body. It allows the original divine blueprint to begin flowing, or perhaps it creates new flow, right? But either way, it allows you to um, leave the old patterns, the old thought and emotional patterns behind easier, because it actually dissolves that block that's physically there in your
that
biofield.
pattern, that energetic imprint.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. This is so fascinating because I mean, it makes sense that the sound is frequency, which has it makes me think of, Dr. Masaru Emoto and when you see the plates in the sand and the vibration of the sound and how it
Yeah.
forms these sacred geometrical shapes, it's like it's this coherence, and when we're holding something that's not in coherence, or it's like a lower vibration or whatever, yeah, you explained it really, really well. I'm curious about, like, what are the range of frequencies or tones that you're utilizing? And does each frequency or each tuning fork, I don't know, have does it have a certain, I don't know, like, I'm just thinking of a word. Does it have a word associated with it, or is it just the frequency, or is it related to a chakra? Like, what are the I know we're kinda getting into the technical aspect of it, but I'm just really curious if each, if the sound of A is connected to something specific.
Well, different biofield practitioners would use different forks. I mean, they make tuning forks that are the musical scale, right? And they make forks that are they're called like, angel forks, or,
Uh-huh.
the frequency of love, or what have you. I I haven't used those in specifics. I just haven't been called that way, because to me, it's like each practitioner and each client, we each come with our own vibration. And so the universe takes what I can do, what works best for me, with all my set of knowledge and skills, and background of understanding,
Mhm.
and where I'm at emotionally and healing wise. And it takes what the client brings, and it shows me the best fork to use to clear what's ready to clear that day. And so I use the biofield tuning forks that Eileen Day McCusick invented, because they're made in the USA, and because they're made specifically to be used over and over and over with this type of, really, it's a stressful work for the tuning fork, because they're being struck over and over and over and over for a
Mhm.
long period of time, right? And a lot of what Eileen had found was that a lot of the um, alloys that had been made, or other types of forks that were made, didn't stand up to the job and giving a coherent sound
Right.
for a long period of time.
Like the
And
quality, right?
yes, the
Mhm.
quality of the metal, um, was what the tone depended on, right? And so she developed a number of forks herself, and so I have the set that they start, biofield tuners with, and then I've added to that set from other forks that she's had.
Mhm.
So they come in different hertzes, and they come in, either unweighted, where you hear a tone, or weighted forks that just vibrate.
Uh-huh.
And
You
so
don't necessarily hear them.
the higher the hertz, the smaller the fork,
Yeah,
basically.
right.
So
Yeah.
like the 528 is an unweighted fork, and it's about this big, whereas the one of my favorites would be like the unweighted 144, or even the 222, and they're long.
Yeah.
So, and some forks always work better for one particular thing. Like it seems like I'm led to use, say, the 528 for different things repeatedly. But it's kind of that set of stuff it works better on. Because forks have been described as like different types of sandpaper. If you've ever done work on a
Mhm.
piece of furniture or in your house, right? If you're scraping paint off a piece of furniture or off the wall, you're going to use something really rough, right?
Right.
That will remove that paint. And so that's the larger fork, or and the weighted forks that are heavy grade sandpaper. And then you go to like the 528 or even smaller forks, that are like fine grade sandpaper that you would use between layers of varnish right before you finish. And
Interesting.
so
Yeah.
anyway, I just use what I'm called for each time.
Yeah.
I just depend on what the universe knows I have, and what the client needs, and melds them together, and it shows me how.
Interesting. And how do you know what a client needs tuning fork wise, or how do you know how do you locate, let's say, an ancestor that is impacting them? Is it through muscle testing? Is it through just being able to scan the energy yourself? Like how do you locate what is standing in the way of them connecting to their pure essence?
Well, I usually don't purposely find an ancestor unless we're clearing for a specific ancestor, which happens.
Mm,
And like if you had bad relationships with your father, or he
mm,
had bad relationships with your grandfather, or a pattern, you've seen a pattern
mm,
in your family, right? And then we're clearing for that particular pattern. And I'll just start. I'll ask, I mean, as I'm working, I start working in the individual field, and then I ask the universe, okay, well, do I work in just the person's field? Because there is ancestral information in the person's field. There's a stream of energy off each side of our bodies. Um, that contain ancestral DNA information. And the one on the left hand side is the mother's, and the one on the right hand side is the father's. Just like all your emotions that are stuck in the biofield are found at those chakra layers are feminine on your left side and masculine energies on your right side, that we all are made of, right? That we all have parts of, different amounts of. And so I ask, well, do I work in the individual's field? Sometimes I work in both the ancestral field and the individual field together. And sometimes I'm called to work in the ancestral field, and then through that into the individual field. And so I just depend on, okay, where I'm showing, and, it's just where I'm showing and my eye goes there, right? I don't know exactly how it happens, but something physically catches my eye. And
Interesting.
it's
Yeah.
like, here, start here. Sometimes it's not at the outer edge. Sometimes where the pocket needs to clear is like a certain place. And it's like, okay, right there.
Yeah.
So,
And so
so
are your sessions in person, or are they can you do them remotely? I'm assuming you can do them remotely. Energies we're in the field
yeah,
of oneness. Yeah.
the first several months that I had clients, I did in person. And after that, I'd say 99% of my sessions are on Zoom or by phone.
Mhm.
And it works just the same as in person.
Right.
And we can clear for different things, like some sessions have the intention for physical ailments,
Yeah.
because it's the stuck energy in the field. Say, like, if you have patterns of anger, right, then that's off your right side navel, kind of
Mhm.
like. And so it would eventually, if you have those patterns long enough and you have problems with it long enough, it's going to cause um, problems to your body on the right hand side of your body, like probably your liver, kidneys, maybe, or your internal organs there. Something, if you have something, say like the left foot is about being stuck or mired in a toxic situation. Well, I sprained my ankle, my left ankle, probably 18 times when I was growing up. And it was like, now I know why, because I was anchored in all this fear and sadness from the ancestors, right? And all
Mhm.
the junk that I carried with me through the years because I didn't know any better. And
Yeah.
so eventually that stuck energy causes either direct physical symptoms or um, predisposition to injury or illness in
Yeah.
those areas. And
That's good.
but some people want to clear for physical things. Sometimes it's for thought patterns or, emotional patterns. Sometimes it's for specific ancestral things. A
Mm.
lot of people come because they feel stuck in life, like they just try and try, and they just can't get ahead, or they don't know what to do and don't know how to do it, and,
Yeah.
just feel kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And so resolving some of those energetic patterns allows their creativity and uniqueness to flow again, and they can be guided more by their intuition. Now, myself, I'm a deep spiritual person, and I prefer tuning for spiritual things, because the physical is caused by the emotional
Mm.
blocks, right? And the emotional blocks are caused because you have resistance, not trusting that everything is working for your highest good.
Mm.
And so it's the spiritual, because we're spiritual beings, the spirit, the reason of the spirit blocks, or whatever, if you want to call them,
Yeah.
are behind the other. So I go to the source, and I like to do spiritual tunings as well as the others. I mean, it all involves everything. You can't separate
Right.
your biofield from one to the other. If I tune it for spiritual, it's going to help you physically.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I just like to say we're spiritual beings because, we're made of the light particles and the space between those particles, but the space isn't air, right? The space is spirit. And
Oh, yes.
so we are made of God, right? We are made of source energy that the whole universe is made of. So there's no end.
Yeah.
It's like our energy extends forever, that the impulses that our thoughts carry extend forever. And if we tune into it, we and learn to and purify, I guess, our own biofield by relieving blocks, we can get more and more intuitive and perceptive and of knowing and feeling and hearing um, of what goes on in extended places too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I just love it. I just love everything that you said, everything that you've shared. It's super, super fascinating. It makes so much sense. I mean, you got me thinking. I'm like, since I do family constellations, oftentimes we're working with the ancestors as well. Um, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's just, it's incredible, just all these different ways. And I just, I don't know how, like, I guess I would say I just am able to see things and know things, and so, what you're describing, it's just like, to me, it just seems like this, it feels so pure and so, um, untainted, because when you're just dealing with the tuning forks and the sound and the purity, and this is like sacred geometry, it's in the beginning was the word, you have sound, the waves, um, you don't have there's no ego involved. That's what I wanna say. There's no ego involved. It's just like, it's just, um yeah, purifying those energies in your body, just bringing them back into coherence. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful work.
It is beautiful work, and
Really is.
Eileen Day McCusick discovered it basically by chance too. Or again, nothing's by chance, right? She would have been
Yeah,
guided to it without being known she was guided to it, probably. She was a massage therapist, but she was interested in tuning forks, and she would like strike them above a person's body at the end of each session,
yeah,
massage session or
yeah.
something, and people liked it. And so one time the client was on her body on her massage table, and she was getting ready to strike it, but she had been called, there was a noise outside, and she'd gone to the window to look, and when she turned her back around, she was still a few feet from the body and struck the fork there instead of over the body, and it was a different sound. And as
Oh,
she moved through it, it was a different sound.
whoa.
And so that led to all her, wow, something's out here. What's happening? Right. And so she spent years figuring it out and
Yeah,
mapping out um, the biofield as far as where she has found different things in the field, and then finding out what was most important to be able to teach the basics to people.
yeah. Boy, I tell you, the future is this kind of medicine, sound, frequency, um yeah, and really attuning to those frequencies that are in nature, it's fascinating. I find us at a very interesting time where it's like, now everybody's talking about quantum physics, and, oh, we're creating our reality, and, all of this, and yeah, it's an exciting time, and, here you have a tool that, works with just that. So how,
But
yeah,
I wanted to insert something, if you don't mind,
yeah,
because you mentioned nature.
yeah,
Um, Today's the last day of each equinox. I pick 3 days before the equinox and 3 days after the equinox, and I call that Friend a Tree Week. And so it the energy of the equinoxes wax and wane like the moon does, right? It grows and then it slows again. And so what happens is that because trees are connected through all other trees, through the earth, through the microbiome of the earth, they all hear the vibration. And so if you go, our thoughts are, it doesn't take just tuning forks, right? Our thoughts are vibrations. God, spirit spoke. That it was intention, right? There
Yeah.
wasn't a body to speak, right?
Yeah.
And so it's our minds that broadcast our thoughts throughout the universe. And so you can place your hands on a tree. The bigger the tree, the faster it works, and the more you can feel its energy. And you can place your hands on a tree. It also helps you feel the energy if you're barefoot or in leather soled shoes. And you can say any intention you want that's for the highest good of yourself and others, as long as it's not a harmful intention in any way. I like to teach people how to say the spirit's intention, because we're spirit beings. Each of us, the deepest yearning of our spirits, each of our spirits is for our minds to know that we're one with God, right? That we're made of spirit, that we're whole, that we're not separated and never have been and never will be. That's our spirit's deepest intention, is for our mind to know. And so that has 5 aspects to it, right? And so those 5 aspects are tied to each of the 5 spiritual chakras that we have in our biofield, that are not in the body but in the biofield. And so when you place your hands on the tree, and then I teach people how to say those spirits intentions, or I shouldn't say teach. I teach them how to hold a tree, and then I just make the spirits intentions available, and
Uh-huh.
they can either say those or their own or both or whatever, right? But so you place your hands on the tree and say those intentions, with the intention that the tree makes those intentions flow throughout the universe, through the leaves, because you have all the vibrations, all the water particles, all the air particles going out through the leaves, through the
Mm.
biome, uh, what's it called, xylem and phloem of the tree, right? That
Right.
brings energy up from the earth and out into the heavens. And so when you hold one tree, it makes all trees do that. So they all send your intentions throughout the universe for the
Mm.
highest good of all, for everyone to know their
Yes,
spirits,
yes,
that
yes,
they're one.
yes. Yes, yes,
And
yes.
so
I love
today's the
it.
last day of Friend the Tree Week for this
Thank you for
fall.
sharing that. That is right. Like, this is it. This is the way back to finding being at home with ourselves, is that it's right here, this technology is right here. It's in nature, it's in our bodies, it's in the sound, you know. So I that's so powerful. I just, oh my gosh, I love
And
you so much, Carla.
well, I love you too, Tanya. I loved having you on our podcast. It was just like we're sisters to start with.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm just like, I wonder if there's a way we could, like, I don't know, get
Meet in
together and do
person.
some fun, yeah,
Yeah.
do some fun.
But I wanted to tie this in with my book,
Beautiful.
just because the 5 spirits intentions that are connected to the 5 spirit chakras that we would hold to have the tree send throughout the universe. I write about that in my book, Ancestral River: A Spiritual Journey for the Living and the Dead, because what I noticed about ancestors is that there's 5 things the ancestors need to go to the oneness.
Mm,
Once a person dies and they're in the waiting place in nature around us,
mhm.
their biofield is in nature around us,
Interesting.
then there's 5 things that have to fall into place. They have to seek them, really. They have to, it's like their journey continues. If we're not where we need to be spiritually when we die, when our body dies, we continue that journey in the afterlife until we have those 5 things, and then we go to the oneness. And so I share about those 5 things that are tied to the spiritual chakras, and it's really the 5 things that trees need to spread, that our spirits need
Wow,
to know that we're one with God, right?
wow.
And so
Excellent. So you can get
they're
that
all
on
tied together.
Amazon? Amazon?
Yes, I have it on Amazon.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys need to grab that book. I need to grab that book. Awesome. And how else, what do you have going as far as, what are you offering people these days?
Well, I'm excited. I still do individual sessions, um, which I love. I mean, it's so fun to go deep with individuals. Um, I'm also preparing an online course that will start hopefully November 1st. I'm kind of a one person show. So if
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of, if I don't quite get things done, then, well, it'll be a little later start. But anyway, I'm hoping for November 1st, and I have 5 friends of mine that are helping, and so it's a monthly subscription course. You get a better deal if you pay by a yearly payment, but otherwise there's 2 levels for monthly payments, and it ties together. I put together a package of what helped me most on my journey, in my healing journey, because I know it works, and I know
Yeah.
others can benefit from it and find healing too. And so it contains biofield sessions, which will be live for, it depends on which level you were in. So
Mhm.
it's biofield sessions, hypnosis, a meditation, and tapping or EFT that are all tied around the same theme for each month.
Mhm.
And then in addition to that, you get tips for gut health, because intuition is the center of your sacral. It's like your first brain. All the
Mhm.
information comes there first. So you need a clear gut. So you
Yeah.
get that from an RN that's helping me. And then I have a hypnotherapist helping me, and a Reiki. It'll be a combination of Reiki and meditation that's helping. And then I do energy tips that are a combination of uh, kind of physical tips and feng shui tips and money energy tips to help you around the house. And then there's also a friend that's helping me who has many, many years experience in finance, and she's going to give financial tips each month. Something concrete steps you can put in place to have a better relationship with money. And this, because my biggest problem, or biggest part of my journey, wasn't just fear and sadness. It was thinking that I wasn't enough, right? It was the mindset of lack.
Yeah.
And so it was the fear and other junk that came because I didn't know I was enough. And so it's the mindset of lack, which is easiest portrayed in our relationship with money, right? Because it's easy to feel, the thoughts that run and feelings that run through our mind when we're short of money, or you're worrying about money, or when you have money and you love it, or maybe there's old stories, so you have money and you don't think you should have it, or you think money's bad.
Yeah.
And so we're clearing specifically for money relationships, because money has the vibration of love, because it's often how the universe shows its love to us. And our mindset of lack is caused by lack of self-love.
Mhm.
And so money and love and self-love are, you can't be separated. And so this course I call Flip Your Money Magic, and
Beautiful.
we'll provide the magical tools you need to flip your money mindset, right? So that
Beautiful.
you have good money magic and can make the magic happen at your house. And the one other thing I'm doing with the course, I'm encouraging people to I work mainly with mothers. I mean, I work with fathers or unmarried people too, but I work predominantly with mothers, and so I'm gearing the course so that they're encouraged to have their children and their partner uh, partake in all the biofield hypnosis, meditation, and EFT, all those things, help them put into place the tips that are given in their home. Because if the whole family's mindset flips, your own will flip better and
Yeah.
faster, right?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Awesome.
So people could contact me to get on the waiting list. I'll be having master classes in October. I don't have a schedule set yet,
Okay.
but just could contact me via through the website. There's from the contact page. That's probably the easiest,
Yeah.
and I'll get you on a wait list and let you know when it's gonna happen.
Beautiful. Awesome. Carla, thank you so very much. This has been just so inspiring and powerful. And so, thank you so much for taking your time to spend an hour here with me. And yeah, I look forward to more.
All right. Thank you so much, Tanya. It's been a joy to be here with you and to get to know you now better too.
Yeah,
And I love that. And
awesome. Okay,
thank you, listeners, for listening too.
that's right. Bye, everyone.